covering all 4 major sports in the District of Champions. It's the DC Crossover Podcast with your hosts, Mike Cerrone and Ben Simpson.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the DC Crossover, episode 127. I am Ben Simpson. That is Mike Cerrone. Follow the show on Twitter at the DC Crossover for the main show account and at Cerrone16 for Mike's Hot Takes. And then, of course, follow the TikTok, DC Crossover Podcast on TikTok. That is where the money is made. That is where we get a lot of engagement on the talk. So definitely be sure to check out those videos because they're just clips of the show, but you can also find the full video episodes on YouTube. We don't really promote those that much because it's literally just the same show you're listening to right now, just in full video form. But if you're interested in checking out, if you're a YouTube consumer, like a lot of people are nowadays, you have the option. And we'll be talking about them a little bit later on in the show, but we are officially a DraftKings sponsored podcast, which is pretty exciting news. We kind of teased it on the show. We've been talking about this for a while now, but it seems to have come to fruition. So you will hear some DraftKings ads for the next, 12, 13, 14 weeks, something like that. So, that's exciting. I mean, that all that means basically for you listening is it's only good for you because that means we're going to continue to put out content because we're actually getting people to be interested in it from an advertiser perspective. Right. So, yeah, definitely big news there.
I mean, the biggest thing is that, we always said the money line sponsored by DraftKings. Now it's officially sponsored by DraftKings because it wasn't like we weren't sponsored before. We are a part of a network that is sponsored by DraftKings. So technically we were still part of that, but This is a personal partnership just with us to the point where we are communicating with, the ad consultants and so on and so forth in that realm. But as Ben said, you'll hear live reads, stuff like that, promo codes, different things of that nature throughout the episodes and so on and so forth. But overall, it's a huge deal. For us, it's a huge deal. We love betting. We love using DraftKings. I know I use DraftKings almost every single night, which is it's plagued my bank account. But at the same time, it's a huge deal, and we're really happy about it. And hopefully, it leads to other things.
Yeah, and it's a good time to have this happen because obviously the seasons are changing a bit, and now we're heading into hockey season. Well, hockey season's already begun now at this point. We're going to talk about some caps today. Whiz Kids kick off on Wednesday this week. The whole NBA kicks off on Tuesday, but the Wizards play Wednesday. And so we're getting back into the swing of things here. I mean, football's been king so far. I mean, through the first 5-6 weeks of the season. Now we will be talking other things than just Commanders. So for those at home who are like, I'm so tired of hearing how terrible the Commanders are, well, we will be talking about some of these other teams for sure as their seasons approach here. And, definitely some Caps talk. And that means we will be bringing back our Rewind segment, which we will get to in a moment, where I'll kind of recap the previous week in DC sports, but mainly the Caps because they played multiple games. But, yes, we were talking about betting. And obviously, bet responsibly, all that good stuff. But we were joking over the weekend how you and I think, need to retire from the college football specifically, betting wise. It is definitely the area that, I mean, I watch so much college football. And I feel like I should be better at betting on those games, but I'm just not. It's literally whatever I think is going to happen, the opposite what happens every single time. It has been rough this month for sure, but basically this whole season for college football.
Yeah, so I just brought up my DraftKings account, and I know for a fact that that I only put in, I think, about 3 parlays, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Oh wait, hold on, it's jumping around on me. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. I don't know, maybe 5. I don't know. I'm losing track. Actually, no, a couple of these I think are on other days. So I lost 1 parlay by 3, which didn't really help me, or excuse me, by 1, which didn't help me. Obviously, the Alabama-Tennessee deal, which we'll get into later as well. I had the under 73.5, and there was 125 points scored. Apparently,
it was unbelievable.
And the funny thing was, it's an alternate as well. So I added like 6 points to it. And then I had to cash out a stupid bet because Eastern Michigan royally screwed me for the second time this year. And the funny thing is that I bet on them 2 weeks ago, and they didn't even cover the spread against a terrible UMass team. Then I bet against a terrible Northern Illinois team for Eastern Michigan, and they still got beat. And they got beat, I think, by 22 at home. And they were like, I don't even know, like 7.5 point favorites or something like that. It's just embarrassing because I literally hit the FAU game. I hit Wisconsin. I hit Oklahoma State. So I lost that one. So I had to cash out. And you know what the weirdest thing is when you are sitting there and you're just scrolling, updating your cash out amounts.
Right. Yeah.
And all of a sudden you have to press the lonely cash out. And I cashed out one bet. Technically I cashed out that one for like 220 when I bet 750 on it. But the funny thing was one time I cashed out 27 cents. And that's because I mean, the game was so out of hand. I was like, let me save some of my dignity and cash out this quarter.
You've given me the advice in the past that any chance to make some amount of money, you got to take, because sports are so weird and things happen where it's like, just when you think, oh, yeah, no, there's no way I'm going to lose this bet, something crazy happens. And so I've adopted that mentality with the cash out that you've inscribed in me, in that, hey, if you see positive money there and you want to cash out, go for it, because you never know what's going to happen. So I cashed out a couple bets this weekend where maybe if I let him stay, I would have won a couple extra dollars or something. But like overall, I think that's the way to play it. Yeah, it was rough.
And then that's what I'm saying is like the Eastern Michigan game, they just looked so terrible. And somehow I just had that notion in my head, like, all right, Northern Illinois is going to screw me again because they did last year twice. And it's weird. I'm betting on these teams that like no one cares about, that are in like the Western Athletic something or other. Some weird conference. And the MAC and all these Big Macs. And the funny thing is, like, I sit there and I bet on these teams, but then all of a sudden they royally screw me every single time I bet on them.
Yeah, it's just
hilarious. So it's like, I mean, so I literally cashed out a bet because I was like, you know what, the game looks terrible. So I did get like 258 or something like that back. But literally, those are the situations where I will say that I did bet a bet that it was a mixed bet. I think it was college football and baseball or something like that a few days ago. And I held out. I held my ground. I was like Hodor in Game of Thrones.
Hold the door.
Hold the door. And I literally held on, and I ended up getting, it was like a $40 win or something like that, when I could have cashed it out for like 17. So I was pretty happy about that. But I just look at it, and the funny thing is, like, NFL, I usually bet well in NFL. I lost 3 parlays until the Sunday night game, all by one. It felt great. But it's just funny to me because, you look at it, and like we said about the cash outs, I keep scrolling. Once I just have a bad feeling, now I have that notion to scroll. And then I have ones that are like cash out suspended. And I said, well, when is it not going to be suspended? I've updated you for the last 5 minutes and it's not coming back. So I don't know, man. It's a terrible feeling to sit there and cash out a measly, George Washington quarter. And you're just like, I'm just going to save the part of my dignity and don't even look at DraftKings.
You got to do what you got to do, man. You got to do what you got to do. And again, bet responsibly, and shout out to our sponsor, DraftKings, which we'll tell you a little bit more about later on in the show. Let's hit the rewind button for a moment. And just to kind of recap what went on in the previous week in DC sports, besides the Commanders, which we will get into, of course, that loss to the Bears on Thursday Night Football. But this is Caps talk right now. They're the only other team playing so far this season. They had 3 games to kick things off for their season. Went 1-2 in those 3 games. I know, Mike, you watched all of them. I watched all of them. Actually, the funny one, I didn't watch the Montreal win. I watched the 2 losses because I think I was watching baseball or whatever in the Montreal game. So, but I saw the loss to Boston 5-2 for the Caps' first game of the season. Mantha and Sheary both scored in this one. Boston wins 62% of the faceoffs, and our new goaltender, Mike. You say it's Kemper, right? That's how you pronounce it. Okay.
Yep.
I know you hear it on the broadcast, but then in my mind, when you see the U there, you're like, how do you say this? Kemper, 25 saves on 29 shots. Not the best debut for Kemper, but you lose to a good, somewhat good Boston team. Another loss followed up was the Toronto loss the night right after. You had Nick Dowd and Johansson score in the first period, and then since that, after that first period, the Caps weren't able to score again the rest of the game. The Caps also 0 for 5 on the power play. They went 0 for 10 through their first 2 games, the power play. We had Lindgren in net this time in Game 2. 36 saves from 39 shots. Not a bad night, but still a 3-2 loss to Toronto. And then the first win of the season, the one game I didn't watch. 3-1 win for the Caps. TJ Oshie with a nice one, a goal and an assist. You had Mantha put in his second goal, as well as Connor Sheary, another goal for him. And Kemper, 21 saves on 22 shots for the game as the Caps go 1-2 for the week. And we will be, when the Wizards games start up and that sort of thing, we'll also be recapping those games as they happen. But the Caps are 1-2 week. We will get to the Caps, and because I definitely want to talk a little bit about them now that we have a chance to talk some hockey talk. But first, let's go back to the gridiron. Let's talk a little Commanders.
We are the Commanders.
All right, a win. A win is a win, Mike. 12-7 over the Bears. I don't know, though. It's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, you'll take it, and will you even really, like when week 12 happens, are you really going to look back and be at this win and be upset, or are you just going to be happy to see a win in the win column? But, there's definitely some different schools of thought there. But, man, was that a miserable Thursday night football affair. I mean, the Thursday night football games, obviously it's been joked about, but they've been terrible. Right. I mean, no teams can score. I mean, it was one of those. I mean, obviously the week prior, no touchdowns on the Thursday night game, and then this game, no touchdowns at least through the first half, right? And then it was, there was a touchdown in the third, I think. But I mean, this was ugly. A 12-7 game. Yeah, you take the win, but this is one of the worst football games I think I've ever sat down and watched, besides the week prior.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at it in the last 2 Thursday nights, just to touch on that, it's kind of embarrassing because I feel bad because the sole fact that I like Herbstreit. I mean, honestly,
for sure,
listening to him, especially on college football broadcasts, like he is basically the John Madden of college football. Like he is the guy that when he's on the game's going to be a good one, you know. But obviously he is adjusting to the NFL game, and now he worked his way into the Thursday night the booth, and he's gotten some terrible games. And the funny thing is, when the announcers and Al Michaels is I mean he's literally he's a fossil. I mean that guy is so old, but I mean he's still entertaining.
He's a legend. He's a legend.
But it's like he's just a fossil, with the mic, and it's just funny because now he just doesn't care. You know how when you get old enough and you don't really have to care what you say because everyone's going to blame it on just being old.
I mean, he got paid the bag by Amazon to come over to do Thursday Night Football instead of like the other broadcast network. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna relax a little bit, loosen the tie a little bit, and now he's just been able to call terrible football games. Like that's what it's been.
He takes the gloves off and just says whatever he wants because I mean he was making fun of Dan Snyder, he was making fun of just the game in general. I mean, it's just hilarious to me that you sit there and Al Michaels, who, like I called him a fossil, is sitting there just, no holds barred, just doing whatever he wants, saying whatever he wants, and no one cares. It was pretty funny. But overall, like you said, the last 2 Thursday night games have been awful. And I don't know if they're going to get any better because Thursday night is usually the night where everyone's like, let's just pray we get a win. Everyone hates Thursday nights and all that kind of stuff.
Usually a short week and all that stuff. And it's usually like, oh man, we only have a couple days to prepare for this game. And it's never a pretty sight, but man, 12-7 is ugly. It was ugly, man.
Yeah. It's just, you just look at the game and just say, I picked them to win against Titans. They should have won. I mean, they had a very, very late chance. And then I picked them to win against the Bears. And the funny thing is like the Bears are terrible, but the Bears, I wouldn't say they dominated, moving the ball down the field. But you're just looking at it and saying that their first drive wasn't great. And then all of a sudden we get the ball and we're like, you know what, let's go down. Let's show them who's boss, all that kind of stuff. And our drive was even worse. I think we might have lost yards. I don't even remember. And that's the funny thing is this team is just digressing in the sense that the more tape everyone has gotten on this staff and on this personnel, the worse they're getting. Because I think, and we can move right into it right now.
Yeah.
I think that when you're looking at this staff in general, and Ryan Fitzpatrick said it on the broadcast, this staff they don't adjust. Like they don't play to the strengths of their personnel. They don't rearrange. I mean, this is the biggest thing. Compare Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan with RG3 to now Ron Rivera, Scott Turner, and Carson Wentz. Okay. And the other players in general as well. You're looking at William Jackson, for instance. So when they were with RG3, okay, RG3 is a runner. RG3 can beat you, hands down in a race no matter what. I mean, he's racing Seahawks. Is there even a Seahawk or is it just a hawk? I don't even know what it is. He's doing that on Monday Night Broadcast and all that kind of stuff early in the season. And they readjusted the entire offense based on what he can do best, which was run. And yes, he did get hurt, so on and so forth. So then you look at what this offense has done and what this defense has done, and it's barely anything. Like they're just plugging and playing guys, and that's not how you win games. You have to look at your personnel and say, okay, William Jackson is a zone guy, but a man guy, but they're playing zone. Same with Kendall Fuller. And they're just doing this with all their players and saying, this is how we're going to play the game. This is how we're going to do. We're going to have bunch formations on the offense. We're going to do this. Like, why do you do the same looks all the time? Like there's no innovation on this offensive side of the ball, or even sometimes on the defensive side of the ball, where the only time we see positives are when those players are making plays themselves. It's not like, oh, we designed this play for Scott Turner. We designed this play where this guy's wide open. Now, I have seen certain things on broadcast where they're like, well, this guy was wide open, so he should have gone to that. Well, the offensive line sucks. And I'm not going to blame the offensive line every single time, because sometimes it is Carson's fault. But like the problem when they sit there and they say, oh, well, we are getting guys open. It's always a defensive presser. It's always defensive. There's always something brought up that they get salty about, or there's always something brought up that they have to defend or whatever. It's like there's just no innovation. There's no game planning. There's no adjusting. We've said adjustments time and time again with this staff. And it's like, I just don't understand where this whole entire mantra of we need to defend everything we do because it's us against the world. It's like, no, it's not us against the world. These reporters out there like John Kime, and so on and so forth, I can name a bunch of others. Those type of guys are sitting there asking the hard questions, but they're not answering them. They're just defending what they did. They didn't answer, oh, well, why do you think Carson did this? Well, no. Well, we called this play and this play. This, like, you're not answering the question. You're just blabbing on about defending what Jack did or what Scott Turner's mantra was, or that Cole Turner was wide open, or something stupid, to the point where you're looking at the offensive line not blocking for him, or him not making a right read, or whatever, dude. It's just all over the place, so that they just don't adjust. And that's why people call them dinosaurs, because the game has passed you by. The only person I think that you could say that's not a dinosaur that came back and had some success is Joe Gibbs. And especially for this franchise, not just in general for the NFL, but Joe Gibbs, he had a game plan. He kind of rearranged what he used to do back for the Super Bowl teams. And now when he came back, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it was, okay, he came back and he won 2 of the 4 years. So you're looking at it and saying, why can't they adjust? This isn't 1987. Like, you're not this team that they play like that. It's just just makes me go nuts.
Yeah, no, it's extremely frustrating, and it's funny how the frustration still lingers even after a win. And one of the big talking points, especially starting back on Friday, was, of course, the report that dropped Thursday morning
Yep.
regarding Daniel Snyder, and obviously covered a lot of different things. We'll touch on it a little bit, but one of the things that was in the report was that Daniel Snyder orchestrated the trade for Carson Wentz in the offseason in hopes of kind of, hiding his own off-field transgressions and things like that. And so, this was talked about to Rivera in the press conference, and we're not going to play the clip of Rivera because we don't put cursing on the show, but I'll read just a quick transcript and bleep it out. But basically, Rivera said, "Everyone keeps wanting to say I didn't want to do anything with Carson. Well, BS," said Rivera. "I'm the effing guy that pulled out the sheets of paper and looked at the analytics and watched the tape of when we were in Indianapolis, and that's what pisses me off because the young man doesn't deserve to have that all the time. I'm sorry, I'm done." And he got off the podium and headed back into the locker room. And this is, I mean, I think the guy is just cracked at this point. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, this is multiple press conferences where he's getting defensive, as you're saying. He's having to like argue with reporters or fight against reports, and everything is always about Carson Wentz these days. And it's like, I feel like Ron is just done. Like he's cracking right now, and like I think this isn't the last time we're going to see a combative Ron at a press conference this year because we're still early in the season, man. I mean, we still have some games to go.
Oh, yeah.
And this team is not necessarily getting any better. And so I think there's going to be these questions are going to keep happening. And my big thinking with all this stuff is like, hey, you're a professional NFL head coach. You've been asked tough questions before. You got to do your job and be up there and be a calm presence in all this stuff. And usually that's what Ron is good at, and he has not been that this year, I feel like. I mean, part of the thing is you bring Ron Rivera in because he is like the veteran head coach who is the calm guy on the podium. He doesn't get overly ruffled or things like that. We haven't been seeing that, Mike. I mean, we're seeing him storm out of press conferences. We're seeing him drop F-bombs left and right. I mean, this is not the calm riverboat Ron that we kind of anticipated here, at least this season for sure.
And that's what Washington does to you. I mean,
yeah, it really does. It breaks your brain.
Literally,
you know how they say, like, not getting political, but they say sometimes, like, Trump, like, broke people's brains just because of how wild he was in 2016.
Yeah.
And, like, I think it's literally what Rivera, I mean, not Rivera, what working for the Commanders does to you, Redskins, Commanders, Washington football team, whatever. You get here and suddenly like you lose all semblance of sanity and you just like lose your mind and it breaks you. It literally breaks you. It's crazy. I mean, RG3, he went through the ringer. Kirk Cousins went through the ringer. I mean, Ron Rivera. I mean, think about all the coaches that have come and gone through this program in the last like couple decades. It's the Snyder experience, man. It's what you get when you come here. You're getting put through the ringer, and like a lot of guys think they can come in here and handle it. Ron Rivera, I'm sure, was like, it can't be that bad. Look at you now, Ron. Look at you now, buddy.
Yeah. And you look at what you said about coaches. I mean, there was a quote from Steve Spurrier saying, like, everyone was like, how can you work for that guy and all that kind of stuff? How did you walk away from the money? Because he resigned, so he walked away from his contract. And he was like, shucks, man. Like, Dan Snyder gave me all that money to deal with that BS, stuff like it's like, I mean, I don't know why he was from Arkansas. But then you look at Horny Fazzorni. I mean, obviously, you're looking at Jim Zorn. This guy wasn't even hired to do or he wasn't he wasn't applying. Sorry, he wasn't applying for the head coaching job. He was applying for some assistant job, and then no one wanted the job, so they just gave it to Zorn. It's like you just think about these coaches, what they have to go through when they get here, because it's like having Big Brother look over your shoulder and say, "Man, I think we should do this. I think we should draft Dwayne Haskins. I think we should get Carson Wentz. I think we should, maybe we should do that because." He wants to be like Jerry Jones. He wants
exactly. That's what it all comes down to.
He came in and wanted to have a mentor, and Jerry Jones was his mentor and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So now he wants to be the guy that can go out there and get the big name players. You can't do that. You're not a football person. You're
20 years to do that. You haven't been able to do that. Like,
and that's
not going to happen. If it hasn't happened now, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're spot on that.
Washington
wants to be
breaks you. Washington breaks you, and that's what it does, because you have a name controversy. You got an owner that literally is looking like a bum in his own suite with sweats on and frosted tips. I had frosted tips when I was in middle school, dude. Like, get over yourself. And it's just terrible because this is what this franchise has come to, and this is what this city has been known for over the last 22 years or whatever it's
Right.
been. Because it's just right now, like you said, Ron Rivera used to have this big, huge shield, like a knight, and a knight's tail. Hey, Heath Ledger and a knight's tail, and all of a sudden, it's just starting to crack left
No,
and
it
right.
is. It is. It's crazy, and it's like I don't know. There's something about this program, this football team. There's always something. That's the thing is the big issue I always have is you can never have a quote unquote normal Washington football season. There's always going to be some weird drama coming into play, or some news story comes out, or some player does something wild, or Dan Snyder does something. I mean, there's always some drama here in DC when it comes to football, and like I think, does that suddenly stop when Dan Snyder's gone? Probably not, but I think it would help. I think it would help with some of this drama. I mean, the report that we brought up, and we won't spend too much time on this because we got a lot to talk about, but the report brought up some things that you and I have talked about on this show, and that we've said on this show before even the report came out that Dan Snyder has to have dirt on these other owners, which is why he hasn't been kicked out of the league at this point. I mean, like, you look in the NBA, like a guy like Steve Ballmer or some of these other guys owners that have been kicked out of their respective leagues, and it happened fairly quick.
Don Sterling.
Yeah, that's what. Sorry, Ballmer is the owner.
This
now.
the new guy.
yeah, I was about to say he hasn't been kicked out. No, you're right, Donald Sterling, and like obviously different situations, but still, when a league really has the ammo to kick somebody out, they do it. And this league with Dan Snyder, he probably could have been kicked out for years now at this point, and he's not because he's got stuff on these older, rich guys that are right there with him, and they've been on the boats that he's been on, I'm sure, and they've been doing some stuff. Again, all alleged. I don't know anything for sure, but I don't want to get in trouble here. But I just know that, like, he said it in the report, like, he's got dirt. He's got dirt on these guys, and there's a reason why he's still untouchable at this point. And that's exactly what you and I have talked about on this show.
And that's the point in this article that doesn't make any sense to me, because they said, oh, well, he didn't hire anybody to do this, blah, 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 blah. And, oh, well, I have dirt on these MFers. They can't do anything with me or whatever. It's like, well, which one is it? Like, I don't get it. Like, there's two different sides of the story here. And then you look at also another, I don't know if it's a direct quote or something like that, but I believe it's a source from an owner that said, oh, well, if he gets a new stadium, then I'm fine with it. I don't care. It's because all these owners care about is money, number one.
Oh, exactly.
And also they like beating up on this team because there's always something that's surrounding this team that the reporters have to go back and forth with the head coach. And then all of a sudden it's reporter versus head coach. And then all of a sudden it's the media versus the staff. And all of a sudden it's never about, oh, this team is actually winning something. This is actually doing pretty well. Like 2012 was a whole different animal. 2012, we were winning. We had a winning streak. RG3 looked like the future, all these different things. And then all of a sudden that came crumbling down. And then it was all this controversy of, oh, well, the Shannies versus RG3. And then, oh, well, the Shanahans, they should be kicked out of town because they got RG3 hurt and all. It's like all these different things that just, I mean, we could literally sit here and make a list over the last
You could
decade.
go across every season for, like you said, probably the last decade plus, and you could find, remember when this happened? Like, remember this whole controversy or this big news story? Like, they never have a normal year. They never have like hey, we just put together a pretty good football. I mean, there's always going to be something. Like, look, you look around the league, like there's always going to be some sort of drama. I mean, obviously, like or some sort of storyline. Like, even looking in the division, like, all right, you look at the Cowboys. All right, the big controversy is like, all right, now Dak's going to be coming back. Is there a quarterback controversy? Like, that is a news story, but that is not. It's not the same level of distraction that the Commanders seem to always have. And like, you look at, I mean, the Eagles, there tends to be something going on. Giants too, like in past years, it's been like, is Daniel Jones the guy? And like, is that, but that's not, this owner is like directly, affecting these aspects of the day to day. And this coach has gone bananas and like all this other stuff. Like, it's different. The drama for the other teams is usually restricted to just the football field and like personnel decisions there. With this team, it's like the football field, the name, the stadium, the owners doing this, this and that. It's like it goes so much beyond football. That's
Right.
where it's just nuts to me. It goes so much beyond it.
Yeah, I mean that's what the thing is that you're looking at, like you mentioned, other teams that have just football related issues, which is what you would expect
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I mean you're looking at, even across all types of leagues, where we talk about Donald Sterling because that's one of the most recent ones and different things like that. You know, I just don't understand how you can survive with all this stuff going around. Now,
yeah.
again, when you are losing money for other owners, okay, then they start to take notice. But it's like, I just don't get how. Yeah, I know they have NFLPA and the Owners Association or whatever the hell it's called, and all these different things. But it's like, wouldn't you think that if you were a CEO of a company, whatever company, just pick whichever one out of the hat, and you had allegations here, you had shaving this here, or doing whatever, or all these different things, don't you think that it would be a little easier? I mean, that's why they have like boards and stuff like
Right,
that
right,
they can
right.
vote you out. And it's like those people, I mean, Steve Jobs, for instance. Okay. Steve Jobs, I mean, now I don't know if it's all factual or not, when in the two movies that they made, um, with Michael Fassbender and Ashton Kutcher, but like in those in the past, he got voted out of his
Oh
own
yeah,
company.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh
So
yeah, absolutely.
I don't understand how this is so difficult when I guess all the owners are the board, but they're just like, oh well, it's Danny Boy again. It's
Yeah,
like
as long as it's
it's
not affecting their bottom line, and as long as their skeletons don't come out of the closet, they're gonna let Danny Boy do whatever the hell he wants. I mean, that's just the fact. So that's all it's gonna be. And like, I don't think it's ever gonna change. That's why you and I both laughed at the ideas earlier in the offseason, things like that. That this will be it. This is now when Snyder's gonna have to sell the team, or he's gonna have to do this and that. It's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Because Daniel Snyder's going to stay the owner of this team until he decides he doesn't want to do it anymore. Like that's the only time he's going to
or
get
he's
forced out at
dead.
this point. Or yeah, exactly. Or like he gets put in prison or something. Like I don't know. Beyond that, even then it would be like maybe he's just still calling the shots from jail. I don't know. I don't know what the
It could
situation would
be.
be. But yeah, I don't know. We'll so this story that came out on Thursday, it's like, yep, it's going to be it's news, it's talking fodder for a few days for us locally. In a couple weeks from now, all that's going to be forgotten.
I mean, the whole entire point of it is that I think it was a quote in the article. The owners, number one, didn't want to talk about the team without Tanya being there. And then when Tanya was there, it was too awkward to talk about the team. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, if you want to boot somebody out, or if you don't like somebody or whatever, there's got to be one domino that falls, and then all the other ones start to follow.
Right.
Because we're not going to go through each owner and see if they want to, keep them or not, because they have to have 24 of the 31 vote against them. But at the same time, it's just kind of like weird because when that also was read on the radio, when I heard it, I was like, that doesn't make any sense though. If you don't want to talk about the team because the owner doesn't show up or is absent or whatever, then you don't want to talk about the team when they are there. Like, what are you going to do? Like, what's the point? Because they all, apparently in the article, they said they all hate Dan. That's what they have a common enemies, Dan Snyder, but they don't want to do anything about it. Now,
Yeah.
they're also saying that it could be a bluff, which is a given. That could be a bluff, but if you have skeletons in that closet, if you're doing this or doing that, obviously we're not going to do any allegations here.
Sure.
But the craziness that goes on when you have money, if you do have skeletons in that closet, you're just zipping your lip and you're sitting back in the corner with a dunce cap on, saying, "I don't. I'm going to look at the wall and I'm not going to say anything."
Yeah. It is. It's very interesting. I mean, will anything change anytime soon? Probably not, but it's something to keep an eye on. That's all we can do at this point. And again, the NFC East standings as we wrap up the football side of things: Eagles 6-0, Giants 5-1, Cowboys 4-2, Commanders 2-4. Kind of sad when everybody else in the division is having themselves a heck of a season so far, and this team is struggling. I don't want to spend much on the Caps because I do want to get to Michael has a snack today, so I'm excited for that. But I want to talk for a sec about the Caps. Just because we only have 3 games to go off of, so we're not going to be able to form a lot of giant opinions at this point. I
Right.
just wanted to kind of point out some guys that are having some good starts to the season. Obviously, TJ Oshie, goals, assists, things like that. 3 points through the first 3 games of the year. Anthony Mantha, who is a guy. The reason I point him out for sure because he was a guy when he came over from Detroit, of course, was looked at as, hey, maybe this guy can really bring a ton of value. And he never really he would have flashes here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like he still hasn't necessarily lived up to the billing. So it's really nice to see him get off to a hot start to the beginning of this season with those 2 goals. And then as far as the goalies so far, Mike, I mean, Kemper has played in that twice so far, Lindgren once. I think Kemper had one not so great game and one pretty decent game, obviously with the win. But anything stick out to you through these first? I mean, again, it's only 3 games, so we're not going to spend too much time on this. But anything in particular stick out to you?
Obviously, through the first 2 games, when they went 0 for 10 in the power play, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, when you're missing some key pieces on the power play, especially Nicholas Backstrom,
Right.
that's a huge deal because Nick Backstrom is possibly, if not the best passer on this team, is a top 3 passer on this team. And it's troubling to see that. But I think that when you're looking at Anthony Mantha, as you mentioned, he has to step up because with Tom Wilson not being there and Nick Backstrom not being there, those are 2 top 6 forwards that aren't on your roster. Not to mention, you might have some other guys that are nicked up or whatever it may be, plus the younger guys as well. That's why you see someone like Connor Sheary. He's stepping up. He's playing really well. He's flying around the ice, which is awesome to see. But again, we mentioned this team getting older. Tom Wilson's not one of those pieces that are older. Backstrom is, Ovechkin is, Oshie is. So you're looking at these older pieces and saying, man, you really got to get a guy like Anthony Mantha to step up because Anthony Mantha is, what is he, 27, I believe? I think we got him when he was 26, so it might be 1 year off. I don't know, something like that. He's mid to upper 20s, so he needs to step up because he's got the legs underneath him. He's a big body.
28.
28. Okay, yeah, I thought I might have been 1 year off.
He just turned 28 like a month ago. So yeah.
Okay, I'll give myself props for that. But and then you look at the goalie situation. It's like I think Kemper played a lot better in that first game than he's getting credit for. Yes, Brad Marchand and a couple others were out for Boston, but I think he was left out to dry in certain situations.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some easy shots in the lane. I mean, Patrice Bergeron had a couple good chances and whatnot that are right in the crease, right in front of the crease in the slot. And I'm just like, you can't blame a guy for maybe he did have a bad rebound or something like that. But I mean, I just didn't feel like he was playing bad. Now, maybe that was just my biased opinion trying to say, hey, man, I'm hoping this guy does really well. And I was looking at all the positives and not the negatives.
It's also just one game, too.
Yeah. So, but just looking at the pedigree of what this team has in net now compared to years past, especially last year. I mean, there was an article not too long ago, maybe like a month ago or something like that, that compared everyone's goalie duos throughout the league, and the Caps had the 6th ranked goalie duo in the entire NHL. Wow. So you look at last year. I mean, last year they probably had the 26th ranked. Duo.
Vanacek and Samsonov, who are now off to greener pastures.
Yeah,
it is. I think it's nice to get that fresh, fresh goaltender and things like that. Where in years past, it was, I mean, even look at last season, I was talking on the show about like, all right, is it Samsonov? Is it Vanacek? Like going back and forth, like who's going to be the guy to step up? It's with this situation, it's like, all right, we know Kemper's the guy. And then, but Lindgren there is a solid backup, and heck, did a pretty good job in his game that he was in that. So I think I'm more comfortable with the goalie situation where we don't have to really worry about the drama there. At least, hopefully not. Again, it's only 3 games, but it's been fun. I mean, I'm glad to have hockey back. The Caps, of course, you would like a little bit better results, but we'll see what happens this week. They play tonight against Vancouver as we're recording this on Monday. Then they got Thursday at Ottawa and Saturday against LA.
But you also have to look at real quick, and that's in that whole entire segment. Leading off back-to-back nights with Boston and Toronto, it's like, it's like you got 2 playoff teams, and Toronto is possibly, I'm not exactly sure what the odds are right now. Toronto's probably one of the top 5 teams easily to have a cup run. So Montreal obviously having them was a good deal, and I think that these next 3 games. going, for Vancouver, at Ottawa, and against the Kings. I think that's a big thing because overall, when you're looking at this team, they need to get off to a hot start. So when Tom Wilson comes back in like December or whatever, and who knows when Nick Backstrom comes back, I got to look at that again. The biggest thing is when it comes down to these early games, you got to win the games you got to win. Yeah. I mean, when I say that, I mean against the lowly level teams, because we're fighting to make a playoff spot. And obviously when it comes down to it, just like last year, we're going to probably, because how strong the East is, we're probably going to be in that back half of the playoff teams. So we'll have to see what happens, especially now that all those guys are out. We'll probably be fighting for the back half no matter what, because Tom Wilson is a huge part of this whole entire offense. So when you're looking at it and saying, if he's not going to be back until December, it's a lot of games.
Yeah. It's going to be, I mean, for right now, it's just about staying afloat. I feel like for this team right now. It's just like hang around. Don't drop off too far. So I want to hear your, I want to know your little snack review here coming up. So we'll play this and then we'll get into it.
Seafood crepe. Yeah, that's seafood crap. When you take a bite of that cod, it's almost like you've got a breaded condom in your mouth.
It's like it's been left out for days and it's been attacked by cats. Dry and tasteless.
It's dry, it's...
Dry?
How dry that is. Bland as anything. You're just bland.
Bland. There's no seasoning in there. Everything's bland. Bland. It's bland. Pasta's bland.
I don't even think he likes the water.
All right. It's time for Mike's food review. As I've been doing it the last time, I still have those Cheez-It Puffed down here. I haven't even thrown them away yet.
I haven't moved them.
And I do have a snack, but I'll do it next week. Because it's your turn. Mike's a snack aficionado as well. So I'm interested to see what you got.
I will say that when I went down the Harris Teeter aisle, thinking of this segment, very barren.
Okay.
What was Michael Jordan's team name? What was it? The Chicago Barons or something like that? What was their
you're talking about the baseball team.
Yeah. I forgot.
Was it like the Birmingham Barons or something?
Maybe Birmingham, Alabama or something. That sounds right. All right, very barren, very Birmingham Barons.
There we go.
So the snack that I have never seen this one before. Now, the main, what do you? I'm going blank today. I was outside all day. The main flavors. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
The main flavors are sea salt, white cheddar, and I believe spicy queso was the other one.
Ooh, okay. I like that third one.
Is popcorners. Whoop, hit the mic. Popcorners.
Okay. This
cinnamon crunch.
Cinnamon crunch.
Yes.
All right. So popcorners. I have not really delved into the popcorners game. It just hasn't really been across my radar. But I do wonder. Cinnamon crunch is a pretty unusual flavor, so I'm interested.
Never seen it before, and it reminded me of cinnamon toast crunch, which is one of my top 2 cereals of all time. So I'll give it a taste here.
All right. So Mike is gonna take a taste here of the cinnamon crunch popcorners. I guess they're crackers. I mean, it's hard to say what they are. I mean, they're like, they're like triangle corner cracker popcorn things. As he's taking a few down the gullet.
So, for 17 of these crisps, it's only 130 calories.
17 of them, 130. Yeah, that's pretty solid. Yeah, I'll take
pretty
that.
solid. They're usually pretty.
I'd eat about 505, but yeah, it's still pretty.
Yeah,
solid.
I wonder what's this. There's 7 servings in this bag, which I don't know if I believe that.
Right.
That's a lot of chips or crisps. So overall, it's actually a pretty good taste. It tastes like, you know what? It tastes like a Cinnamon Toast Crunch square that it was no milk involved.
Okay.
So you know how you get one that's kind of lightly seasoned? It tastes like that. Like if I take maybe a handful of these things and throw them in my mouth, then I think it would taste like a regular Cinnamon Toast Crunch because I need more dust, as we like to call it.
Yeah. Is there enough? I'm also curious, like, is it too dry? Where, like, if you had a few
let me try out.
Grab a few more. It's like, I'm curious if you have too many of these and you don't happen to have a beverage right nearby, is that going to be a problem? Like, is that something where you're like, all right, this is kind of drying out my mouth a bit?
You know what would be nice is if I had a glass of milk.
Okay, so basically you're really saying that this is the Cinnamon Toast Crunch, like the bigger version of Cinnamon Toast Crunch is kind of the
Yes.
vibe you're getting.
Yes, because I think if I had a nice little small glass of milk where I could eat a chip and have like a little sip, then it would be, like having a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but without all the calories and sugar.
Okay, so that's interesting then. That to me that gives it a little more potential then. If it could be, hey, for fans of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, you get the cinnamon crunch popcorner flavor, and that way you get some of that texture that you love, but not as many calories unless you eat like
100%.
5 bags of them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now I would like to do the bag technique, but I can't do it with these because their crisps are too big.
Right, you might accidentally poke your eye out.
I think I might get some dust in my eye.
Popcorner cinnamon crunch. I'm just giving them a quick.
Yeah, it's a purple bag
Quick
too,
Google
which I don't really like the purple bag, but they're trying to make it look colorful, which appeals to kids.
Right now on like Google reviews of this snack, 4.9 stars is the average rating
Out of 5?
Out of 5.
Wow.
For these popcorn or cinnamon crunch. I'll let you give your own rating, but this is what I'm seeing as far as online goes. It seems to be something where, and I can't get an exact date on this, but it does seem to be like something fairly new, or at least
I think so. Yeah.
at least within the last 5 years. I think
these have to be because I've never seen these before.
A couple years, maybe. I mean,
because you go to Costco and you get the whole entire box. That's why they have the sea salt, the white cheddar, which is my favorite, and then the spicy queso, which is actually really good as well. So those are the main 3 that I've seen in those like huge personal boxes. But I've never seen this one. That's why I was like, I have to give it a try. But I mean, appeal, same type of bag. It's just a different color. Who cares? So that
wow, Mike, this is only 1 month or so old. So
I told you,
this
man.
is a
I've never seen it.
new snack. Yeah,
Never
this is
seen it.
very new.
And I want to keep eating them.
This website gave it an 8.3.
Wow.
This is trendhunter.com.
Not gonna lie, this pwns the sea salt ones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the cinnamon. I mean, cinnamon can be. I mean, cinnamon rolls are great. Like, there's so many different things that cinnamon can really improve. And so, like, I'm not surprised. But that's really good news. So, what is your rating? Let's say, like, out of 10. What are you thinking?
Are we doing out of 10 or out of 5?
It's up to you.
Well, what did you do to the puffs?
I whatever it was a 0. So I don't know.
All right, so I will go out of. We'll go out of 10. Screw it. The Sultan's not here today, so my review on the Popcorners Cinnamon Crunch crisps is an 8.7 out of 10.
Wow. Okay, that's a serious score right there. 8.7 out of 10 for the Cinnamon Crunch Popcorners. Go get them at your local store. I mean, wherever you can buy them, probably some grocery store or something like that.
If you like cinnamon toast crunch, it's literally a bigger version of a piece of cinnamon toast crunch.
I like it.
And cinnamon toast crunch, obviously they have a lot more dust on them, but these don't. But these are healthier, so it's like you get a little hint of it, but it keeps you coming back wanting more.
Cinnamon toast crunch, the taste you can see, I believe was the slogan for that.
What? Really?
Yeah, I believe so. The final lap here, 90 seconds on the clock. Some other stories in sports. We're going to spend a lot of the time on baseball, but first, Mike, Tennessee, the thriller over Alabama. I talked about it on the show how excited I was for this game because I really strongly believed in Tennessee football. And, man, I mean, they got it done. It wasn't pretty, but they got it done. 52-49. And the best part of this, Mike, the goalpost celebrations, riding those. They took the goalposts out of the stadium. They chucked it into a river somewhere. It was an insane situation developing on Twitter.
I believe that is a tradition, is to get the goalpost and chuck it. I think it's called the Tennessee River, which, I mean, let's come up with a better river name. Let's be honest here.
Sure.
But overall, I mean, that was pretty crazy. I think I got tuned into this video of the 2 refs that gave the touch, or the I guess it's good signal. That's what you want to call it. I should give the signal to these crisps over here. And they gave this, they were like this, it's good, and they sprinted because apparently,
I saw that video.
Because apparently, obviously, they were storming the field when the kick was good.
I mean, you beat Bama at home, you got to do that, especially in a game like that. That's probably one of the best college football games during the regular season in the last couple of years. I would say I'd put it up there. I'm not saying it's the best, but I'd say it would probably be in the top 5 best games of the last.
What's better,
4 or 5 seasons?
having a game like that, or having a game like Michigan and App State a few years ago, back in, what was it, 2005 or
True,
something
a big
like
upset. I mean, because look, Tennessee is it beating Bama in this situation is it's an upset of sorts, but Tennessee's undefeated. It's only so much of an upset, but when like an App State or when that sort of thing happens, I think for me it's the only thing about it that makes it different is okay, App State wins that game. You don't care about App State the rest of the season.
True.
Tennessee in this game and Bama in this game, there's actual repercussions to this game for both teams, moving forward and playoffs and conference and things like that. That's why maybe it has a little bit greater significance. But obviously, we love a good upset for sure.
Right.
That's why the first couple weeks of the season are the best, because some scrub team always is going to upset somebody.
Right.
And then before we move into the money line, just baseball wise. Padres, Phillies, and Astros all advance. Yankees and Cleveland game 5 is supposed to be tonight. Right now, it's in a rain delay, I believe. So who knows? But they pretty much have to try to get this game in tonight because the ALCS is supposed to start on Wednesday. And so they kind of need to they can't necessarily postpone this to tomorrow and then try to squeeze in the next game. I don't know what they're going to do, but right now I think they're trying to get this to happen tonight. Game 5, it's a big one. But yeah, one thing just to note from this is 2 former Nats in the playoffs here, Mike. You got Bryce Harper for the Phils, Juan Soto, and Josh Bell, if you want to name him as well, for the Padres, all advancing to the CSs in this one. Kind of sad and happy at the same time for them. But still, kind of sucks. These are the franchise guys for us.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of crazy how you just realize what kind of team we would have, because you go back and you look at Trey Turner, Juan Soto, Bryce Harper. Literally, if you name up all these guys, Josh Bell, like you mentioned, we would have a stacked roster.
Yeah, well,
if we would just pay all these guys.
Yeah, like you said, Trey Turner was still in the playoffs.
Yeah,
all these guys. Yeah, it's tough to see, but right now, if I was to give my predictions for World Series, the Astros just look unbelievable. I would definitely put them coming in on the East, even if it's Yankees or Cleveland, or from the American League, not the East. And then from the National League side, the Padres just took down one of the best teams in baseball, and the Dodgers, they're a little hot right now. I don't mind. I'd be happy to see the Phillies lose, that's for sure. So maybe an Astros Padres World Series. I still think Astros are going to win it all. They're too good at pitching, too good at hitting. They do it all. Astros, unfortunately, are going to probably win the World Series this year.
You know what? Honestly, I'm just going to choose who I want to root for, and I'm going to go with the Fathers. I think the Fathers
for sure
are, just having Juan Soto, Josh Bell, those kind of guys. It'd be fun to see them in there because it'd be a lot of offense. There'd be a lot of, I guess you could say, it'd be a lot of non-avoiding guys. Like for Cleveland, it's like, okay, you got Jose Ramirez and maybe a few other pretty good players and stuff like that. Not saying they're a bad team by any stretch.
Oh no,
but
it's more of a role player built team for sure.
Exactly. And it's like you're looking at it, and the Padres, you got 3 or 4 guys right there in the Machado, Soto, Bell. It's like they got a stacked team. So it would be fun to see
all this without Fernando Tatis Jr. too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's kind of giving me the feeling of the Braves last year without Acuna. So you're looking at it and saying, wow, that's kind of, it's going to be kind of crazy looking at that. But I'm going to go with the Fathers. I'm going to root for the Fathers.
I'd be happy with that.
Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Right, there you go. Let's move on to DraftKings, the money line, sponsored by DraftKings. Everyone, DraftKings Sportsbook is coming to Maryland. It won't be long until you can bet same game parlays, money lines, props, and more with DraftKings. But you don't have to wait to get in on the action. You can enter DraftKings Pick'em free-to-play pool every week for a shot to win a share of $15,000 in cash prizes. Joining a free-to-play pool is simple. First thing you do, you download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app. You select pools in the menu bar and choose from a variety of free-to-play pools for a shot to win big. Soon enough, you'll be able to bet on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home with DraftKings Sportsbook. For now, download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app. Sign up using code DC Crossover. to enter DraftKings Pick'em free-to-play pool for a shot to win big. That's code DC Crossover only at DraftKings. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER. You got to be 21 years or older, physically present in Maryland. Eligibility restrictions apply, subject to regulatory licensing requirements. See DraftKings.com/MD for full terms and conditions. Thank you to our partner, DraftKings Sportsbook, for sponsoring this episode. And go download that app, the daily fantasy app, and enter again promo code DC Crossover. We appreciate it. They appreciate it. Let's move into our picks of the week, Mike. I think I was able to get a little bit redemption this week. I think I don't know if I went 2-0, but I think I at least went 1-1.
You go 1-1. Yep.
Especially because I had the Tennessee pick, so that worked out for me. You are on fire in our picks, man. If only you could translate this over into your real bets.
Yeah.
But you are 9-3. I am 4-8. I still have some work to do. This one, I mean, this is tough for me. I was trying to figure out the picks I want to make here. My dog. I'm going Iowa plus 29 against Ohio State. Ohio State, obviously the better team, but that's a pretty big spread. And Iowa games are always kind of ugly, and they take their time and all that sort of stuff. So I'm just thinking, I feel like Iowa could cover 29. I don't know. That's my pick. My lock. I just looked at the NFL games this week. I found the biggest over-under, and I was like, you know what, 52 points, I'm taking the under. So I'm going Seahawks and Chargers under 52. No real logic involved, just found the biggest number and took the under. That is my lock. Seahawks, Chargers under 52.
Sometimes, honestly, I mean, it's a 50-50 shot. Either you get
all
the other,
this
or
stuff
you don't.
is, you know?
I mean, honestly, I'm 9-3 in this season of picks, and
Right.
I'm losing every parlay by one. It feels like terrible. Anyway, so my lock, I'm honestly going with Arizona and the Saints. I mean, Thursday night, I went 1-0 Thursday night last week with the Commanders money line. So you're looking at it -1.5. Arizona is now getting Robbie Anderson. The reports are coming out today.
Yeah.
So D-Hop is back, and I don't think the Saints are that good. I mean, Andy Dalton, I think, is playing for them, but even though I saw Jameis Winston has a chance of playing or something, I don't even know what the heck's going on down there. And overall, I think the Saints are just average. I think the Saints are average.
They got your favorite player, Taysom Hill.
Yeah, Taysom. Oh, yeah, go, Mr. Hill, King of the Hill. So honestly, I just think the Arizona. I mean, they got to win by 2. Let's be honest here.
It's gonna be 2-0.
I mean, yeah, it's gonna be safety and nothing
with these games.
And I mean, you're looking at 2 points. You got to win. I mean, D-Hop is back. The Cardinals are just slightly above average, I think, just judging by their games recently. But overall, win by 2. And let's be honest here. My dogs, I'm going with OK State +6 versus Texas. I think I got lucky that they covered the 5. Now, obviously, my parlay was done at that point, even though it still covered a +5 against TCU. And I don't know how they lost by 2. It's weird. I just went back and I saw it today. But overall, Texas, they're good. But OK State, I mean, they're a really good team. So Texas and OK State, I mean, it's in Stillwater, so they got the home crowd on their side, and I just think that they have a good enough team to cover 6 points. I mean, let's be honest here. I think it's going to be a really good battle, and I think it's a 4:30 game or something like that, East Coast time. So overall, I think it's going to be a good game, and I think OK State can cover the 6. So I got Arizona -1.5 versus Saints on Thursday night, and on Saturday I got the Cowboys, the less, I guess you could say, less hated Cowboys on my side. The OK State Cowboys versus the Longhorns of Texas +6.
Also, shout out to the Caps, who I believe are already up 1-0, and I think Ovi scored. So, obviously, those listening live don't care because you've probably already seen the scores. But just a little note for us. Besides that, people, we will be back next week, of course. Talking all things Commanders. We'll be talking about the Wizards beginning of their season. Caps, a lot going on here. Go please support our sponsor, DraftKings. Again, promo code DC Crossover to enter DraftKings. Pick them free to play pool. And we will see you next week. Oh, wait, I almost forgot. How could I forget? I mean, we're talking about.
This might be the reason that DraftKings reached out to us.
That's what I'm thinking, is that there's no other reason really for DraftKings to contact us, if not for come on, John C.
It's probably a good thing that John didn't come on our podcast last week.
That's true.
Gave us this whole breakdown of why it's gonna be a good game, and all of a sudden it was 12-7.
Yeah, that is true. But John Z Sports from the now dead Contender Network. Shout out to him. Shout out to the Bears, I guess. I don't know. We'll see you next week. This has been another episode of the DC Crossover.